This is a HeadGum podcast.
Hello, this is Fake the Nation, where we talk about news, we talk about culture, and where we experience the spookiest week of the year. I am your host, Negin Farsad, and it's spooky not because of Halloween, no, because it's the last week of the miserable and horror-filled and fun and exciting election season. Today, we'll look at the final messages of those campaigns. We'll look at the trend of divorce parties, and we'll ask whether one sister was trolling another when she decided to schedule her C-section on her sister's birthday. Today, folks, this is the kind of panel. First of all, I should let listeners know, if you listen to the bonus, you know that I'm very sick, and I'm still sick, ladies and gentlemen. For listeners that are watching on YouTube and are not just listening, but they're eyeballing as well, you'll see a sweaty-faced Farsad who is alternately feverish and just at regular levels insane. So apologies for whatever comes out of my mouth, because I am not in full control of these faculties, which is why we have assembled this very particularly brilliant panel today. You've seen her on The Late Show. You've heard her on this show a gajillion times. She's the co-host of the show Were You Raised by Wolves? She's going to be touring all over the country in November and December, which is really exciting because you should see her live because she's so fucking fantastic live. She's got an audiobook coming out on Friday called The Holiday Breakdown. This one has so much going on. I don't even know how she does it all. And she's also one of my really, really good friends. She's the one and only Leah Bonnema. Hey, Leah.
Goodness, I giggled through that whole thing. I felt so sweet. Thank you so much.
So happy to have you on. Now, also, Leah, today is a very special day for you because you are inside of a Persian sandwich, and not everyone gets to do that.
I've been waiting for this day for my whole life.
I know. It's special. Now, the other half of this Persian sandwich, he is been on the show very many times. He's a fan favorite. He's host of the podcast, The Fraudsters, which everybody loves and has already subscribed to if you know what's good for you. He also has a new show out. It's called The Forum Report, which is a weekly geopolitics show on the Lost Podcast Network, which I know that listeners of Fake the Nation would absolutely love. He is my Persian little brother out there in California. He is the one and only Seena Ghaznavi. Hey, Seena.
Oh my God. Hello. Hey, big sis.
My gosh, I'm so happy to have you guys. I'm so happy to unleash my antibiotic and steroidal fever upon the two of you. And before we get into the show, I want to remind listeners, if you want to support the show and my increasing drug habit, please go to patreon.com/Negin Farsad. For as little as $4 a month, you get bonus episodes of the show. It's a good time. All right, let's get into it with topic number one. So Trump had this is the last fucking week, okay? It's the last week.
Thank
and
God.
all of the campaigns, all of them. Jill Stein, we're gonna get into that. Kidding, we're not getting into that. Fucking all the campaigns are doing their last things. And Trump had his big hurrah at Madison Square Garden with people like Tucker Carlson and Hulk Hogan making speeches. But one particular set caught everyone's attention. And it was a joke from Tony Hinchcliffe. He did a set.
There's a lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico. Okay. All right. Okay. We're getting there.
Now, I'm sure that was the 700th time that we have all heard that joke. It is seared into our collective minds. Now, I'm going to start with you, Leah. As a comedian, what are your feelings?
As a comedian, I have no feelings, but
they have been scrubbed out of you
just
through years of stand-up.
Three-tiered thought, like a cake. And I do think that comics can say whatever they want. This idea, people can't say what they want. You can say whatever you want. But then people are going to have thoughts about what you said. That's the deal. Secondly, the idea that it's just a set, like you're at a rally speaking for, it's not a comedy show. It's not a roast. You're on a part of a panel of people that are speaking to get a person nominated. So it's not like, oh, it was just a joke. It's like, no, you're a part of this bigger thing that terrorizes all of us. And three, separately to the side, I guess it's a 4-part because one, how
four
crazy.
Four-layer cake.
I'm so sorry. how amazing would it be if that's the joke that wins us the election? Because people are just like so galvanized by it that they're like, we weren't going to show up, but now we're showing up. And we would be like, God bless you, Tony. And then 4, I find it, how much of our lives are we spending talking about male comics who say or do horrific things, and then instead of them they actually just get more and more and more famous, and it's like, this is just household naming him, even if it's like bad press has really become, and I feel like that's one of the worst parts of this. Like we saw it with Louis C.K. Any podcast I went on for like 3 years as a quote unquote female comic, they'd be like, what do you think of Louis C.K.? And I was like, why don't I tell you about all these people who are doing great things that I think are really funny? You know what I mean?
Seena, how many layers of a cake of a response do you have?
Man, mine's a pound cake, so it's a dense single layer cake that you need coffee to have with, or else it's too dry in your mouth.
Yeah, okay.
A little bit multi-layered, definitely with you, Leah. Any comic can say whatever they want. Those words have consequences. And as a performer, as an artist, as a host, whatever you do, if you get on a stage and say something, words will have consequences. Everyone's been talking about the Andy Warhol line, the real true art is getting away with it. He obviously kind of got away with it for his audience. Here's the thing about Tony, okay? It is not a joke that I like. It is a joke that his audience would like. But here's the other thing. Moreover than anything, this is bad producing. I'm going to produce. This is what I do every day. This is bad producing. This is bad hosting. This is bad booking. He did say, I'm following the national anthem. So that means they booked this guy as the opener for Rudy Giuliani, Hulk Hogan, Tucker Carlson. He was supposed to warm the crowd up. And technically, I guess, maybe he did his job. But the problem is the host or the warm-up guy is never supposed to be the headline. He's never supposed to be bigger than the rest of the names. Rudy Giuliani said awful things in his speech as well. But we're paying attention to the comedian because he's supposed to make people laugh. And there's this other thing. And let's not forget, Tony's audience is huge. He sold out MSG with his podcast. So he is able to fill the stadium. And to Leah's point, we're just making him more famous by continuing to talk to him. It's not like Tony's going to be in charge of the immigration policy if Trump gets elected. You know, I mean, who knows? But you know what?
Well,
I take that back.
Yeah,
I take that
really, who knows?
So I think for me, the real offense is bad producing. And they vetted the jokes. The Trump campaign vetted the jokes. He was going to say worse stuff. I was reading that he was going to say the C word. And they were like, no, you can't say that. Definitely say this Puerto Rico joke. Everyone's going to love it. And so that's bad producing at the end of the day. And that's what's
It's also the other thing that's bad producing. I mean, first of all, I agree with both of you. Like, I don't actually give a fuck about this particular comic's jokes. I think I'm just like, who you put on this stage matters because it is a signal as to what you think about the country. Like you're vetting the material that comes out of this person's mouth. And by the way, there's shit that came out of Tucker Carlson's mouth. Can I just read to you guys the little summary that the New York Times, I read the New York Times little like tracker of the evening. They wrote, another speaker likened Vice President Kamala Harris to a prostitute with, quote, pimp handlers. A third called her, quote, the Antichrist. And the former Fox News host Tucker Carlson mocked Miss Harris, the daughter of an Indian mother and Jamaican father with a made-up ethnicity, saying she was vying to become, quote, the first Samoan, Malaysian, low IQ former California prosecutor ever to be elected. So these are all the things that you have agreed you stand for, and you put it on the stage. These are the things you stand for. You don't stand for an economic boost for the middle class, or the things that you're supposed to stand for in a campaign. This is your final message for the campaign. Instead, you're talking about a floating garbage barge or whatever, right? So, like, this is my problem is, what is this message? I don't hear the message what am I supposed to take from this in terms of a second administration? And I agree that what's upsetting to me is like, making people famous for something that's not supposed to, that's not the point. That's not the point. We're not supposed, the point is not to make some random guy famous, which is exactly what I'm doing right now with this segment. Apologies to myself, to my past self, to my future self. To future podcasts that Leah will go on and have to answer questions about this guy.
At least he wasn't Persian. At least he was
yeah, at least.
another layer of crazy.
And what was I gonna say? Well, I don't know. I forgot my. I don't know. I can't. I that's it. Just this. And that's it. Now let's talk about. So that's my problem is that there's no real message in this in what we saw
I
in
guess
any of that.
my
Oh, and the producing point. This was my final point. On the producing front, people started leaving. By the time Trump went on, it was like a 75-hour event. By the time Trump went on, people started to leave because it was too long. You spend too much time on Tony Hinchcliffe, you're going to leave by the time Trump gets on. So just from a producerial standpoint, this is terrible entertainment. You got to keep it tight. You got to keep it shorter. You got to keep them leaving wanting more. You got to keep them leaving wanting more garbage barge jokes, okay? You know what I mean? You can't give them too many. So that was my other thing. Sorry, you were going to say something, Seena?
I guess the one thing I was thinking about as well is however bad this final closing argument was, do we think it changed anyone's minds? I think there's maybe a few thousand Puerto Ricans in Pennsylvania that maybe get off the couch.
Yeah, there's like 800,000 Puerto Rican voters. Yeah.
So, like, I don't know if they were already Kamala, Harris-Walz voters already, or if they were undecided or whatever. Even just a few thousand, if they were not going to vote.
Moves the needle.
Yeah, moves the needle quite a bit. But I don't know. The part that really is frustrating to me is that this was so absurdly bad on a producerial level, on the talking point level, on the actually making a case for the country level. But is it like it just falls on deaf ears?
Does it matter?
Does it matter?
I don't know. Well, let's contrast this with one of the now. So where Trump brought out Tony Hinchcliffe and Tucker Carlson, Kamala Harris had people like Michelle Obama. Let's hear what she had to say.
So let me take a minute to help folks, especially the men in our lives, to get a better sense of what could happen if we keep dismantling parts of our reproductive care system piece by piece, as Trump intends to do. I want folks to understand the chilling effect, not just on critical abortion care, but on the entirety of women's health. All of it. There are good reasons why so many women and physicians are horrified by what's happened since Donald Trump's justices overturned Roe v. Wade.
Michelle Obama really went hard on making the case why we really need to think about this election for women. She really makes the case for abortion rights, and she kind of ends it by making a plea to men to think about women. What did you think, Seena, as the resident man on this panel? Did you ever think about women before?
I feel so seen. First of all, I didn't find anything she said very funny. So I think that's something her and Tony have in common. I didn't laugh once. Yeah, it is perplexing to me. I've been on other shows, like radio shows, where callers have called in, male callers, and they have expressed doubt about a female president, and it's absurd to me. By the way, I'm a guy, and I'm going to tell you straight up, we are 10x more emotional than women. Okay, we are more as children. We are disproportionately impacted by like childhood trauma. Like we don't know how. We have way less resilience. We have way bigger like fluctuations in our moods. Like there's science. They've documented us at this point. So for me, I love it. Throw a bunch of crazy guys on the front lines. Fine with me. I'd love a woman in the Oval Office because we need a steady hand, not someone that's going to remove all the rules at the FDA and all this other stuff. That's just going to be terrible.
Leah, what did you think of Michelle Obama's plea?
I do agree with Seena that men are more sensitive, and it is wild that we've gone this far pretending publicly that it's the other way around. That being said, I think it's sort of like the eggshell walking. You know what I mean? Because you never know, is this going to be the thing that reminds you of a childhood trauma and sets everybody off? That being said, I'm also very perimenopausal, so everything is making me cry. Including this speech makes me cry because I feel
and
so
she seems to be getting emotional herself during the speech.
Yeah, it's like this is happening to real people. And then I feel like I've seen so many people from the Trump camp be like, this is not happening. This is like the left's like blowing things up. You know what I mean? And it's like, people are going to die and people are going to have to make horrible decisions or people are dying. And it really just hits home how much people fucking hate women to me. You're just not the same. You know what I mean? People want to control you. They're going to make choices for your body, even in times where you could die. And it makes me so, besides angry, it makes me very sad.
And also, it's also, look, we both have really lovely partners, and I don't know a single man in my life who could bear to watch their partner suffer in a hospital, in the fucking parking lot of a hospital, without adequate medical care. I just don't see it. I just don't see that happening. I don't see that from a Republican. I don't see that from an independent. I don't see that from a libertarian. I don't fathom. I don't believe that that's true. So I feel like part of this is like made up. It's like being used as a tool to divide us, and it's like, it's not real. You know what I mean?
Agree. And I think that when men see it happening to someone they care about, they're going to be so upset because they're being told that it's not real, that it's not happening. So until you know somebody,
until you really realize that it is happening, then it's important to hear people like Michelle Obama telling us, no, dudes, it's fucking really happening. Okay, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue. And we are back, and we're ready for more with topic number 2. We're just going to, like I said, it's the last week, so we're just going to have a little bit of a continuation of the political discussion because Kamala made a speech at the Ellipse yesterday to 75,000 people. And now the location is significant because that's where Trump spoke to his followers right before they stormed the Capitol on January 6th. Kamala's speech had a slightly different impact.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. And what's interesting, the difference between Kamala's speech and Trump's speech at Madison Square Garden is that Kamala wasn't casually racist even once. And I thought that was very shocking.
Again, lacking humor. Unbelievable.
I was just, what a miss.
Also, hers is like a tight, I don't know how long it was, but it was maybe like 20 minutes or something. He goes on and on, I don't know. I listened to the whole speech because you can listen to a whole speech of hers because they're like tight. And it was like, this is what I'm going to do for childcare. This is what I'm going to do for home health care, elder care. This is what I'm going to do for small businesses. This is what I'm going to do for education. This is what I'm going to do for, it's like chock full of policy positions. Then the other thing she went through and did, which I thought was really fun, was like, these are the ways in which I will not arrest my enemies. You can criticize me, I won't arrest you. You can insult me, I won't arrest you. You cannot vote for me, I won't arrest you. You know what I mean? It was just like all the things you want to hear from a leader. She said Donald Trump has spent a decade trying to keep the American people divided and afraid of each other. That's who he is, but America, I am here tonight to say that's not who we are. I don't know. What did you think of this final plea from Kamala Harris?
Radical, extremist, unbelievable. How dare she try to get in-home care paid for elderly people by Medicare? Unbelievable.
But meanwhile, every person I know has parents in the age group where they're about, right? We're all three of us, right? Where they're starting to think about, or they're starting to worry about what is going to happen when shit hits the fan with their parents. And this exact policy plan is meaningful to people in our age group. It's sandwich huge. Generation. It's fucking huge. And it's incredible. We need it. We need it so desperately.
I think the other thing that Vice President Harris should have done, and I wish she would have gone back and done this, is stood up after her speech and played a Spotify playlist that she likes and just stood on stage. Because frankly, I think her Spotify playlist would have been way better than the former president.
Also, she would have had the rights to all of the songs on her Spotify playlist. Also, she would have, because the fun thing, and I mentioned, but the YMCA, like Trump doesn't know how gay that song is. Yeah. Like the levels of gay anthem, like he just doesn't know. Leah, one of the things that we haven't really talked about on this show that I referenced earlier is the extent to which Trump references kind of like taking down his enemies once he's in office. He refers to them as the enemy from within. How seriously do you take that? He mentioned it again. He mentioned it at a rally recently in Wisconsin. He said the crazy lunatics that we have, the fascists, the Marxists, the communists, the people that we have that are actually running the country, those people are more dangerous, the enemy from within, than Russia and China and other people. So basically, he implies using force against his own people. He's named people like Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, 60 Minutes. He regularly refers to taking these people down, revoking broadcast licenses, stuff like that. Now, if you ask a Trump supporter, they're just like, oh, he just says stuff like that. It's for bluster. It's, or they'll say like, yeah, like they are deserved enemies of the state. Do you think this is just campaign bluster, or like how worried are you when he talks about the enemy from within?
Every time he says it, I really hope that it's going to be a reflexive moment where he's like, I've been in therapy and the voices in my head, I'm dealing with inadequacy and, this is the enemy from within. But it's not that. It's unfortunately, I was like, I have a great therapist. I feel like sometimes because so many things that he does are just talking. It's just like he grabs onto something and you're just like, what just happened on this word vomit that came out? And then the other half of it is terrorizing, because he does so want to win and he wants to be like a king and he wants anybody who disagrees with him to be, outlaws of the state. And there are a section of his people that are like, yeah, they're un-American. You know what I mean? And so it's almost like in my brain, I can't fathom another 4 years, and a part of me is like, we'll survive it. Or that's what my partner told me as I laid on the floor eating bags of candy corn screaming. And then the other part of me is like, he could literally take this whole country down and throw people in jail. And you know what I mean? Like, I can't, I really can't. You're like, is this real?
Well, Seena, where are you at on the enemy from within?
So I remember before he got elected the first time, I was like, there are guardrails in our democracy. He can only do stuff about immigration and foreign policy. And boy, did he prove me wrong. He broke down every single barrier that's possible. And even within his administration, he had what you would call relatively sane people around him to keep him from doing absolutely crazy stuff. If you look at who he's going to bring in now, like they got rid of the former head of the RNC. They brought in like Laura Trump to do the get out the vote thing. And you know what she did? She fired everybody that was there, and you could get hired back and you had to sign a loyalty pledge. So that means they have a bunch of idiots running their get out the vote campaign, which is great for us. But at the same time, that's a preview of what his new administration would be like. That they're going to be loyal sycophants that are going to come in. They're going to basically greenlight every crazy pure id idea that he has. And that's what really freaks me out is I don't have, it's like the 9/11 commission that what was their big thing? It's like we had a failure of imagination. And I think we should not fall for that here, because we need to be understanding that if he says this, he will find a way to either get there or get close to it or make it so that the conversation is around it so much that we're so stressed out that he's able to do other stuff that's even more upsetting and that's more policy driven and bureaucratic, that's going to have a detrimental effect on our country. So this is how fast he's able to run his crazy that could really destroy the fabric and the fundamentals of how the country works.
Well, let's quickly ask this question. Recently, the other day, the Washington Post announced that they're not going to be doing endorsements for this election, reversing years of a trend. What did you think about that decision so close to the election?
I think it's I saw a lot of people canceling their Washington Post thing, and I've canceled my New York Times subscription like 3 times, but it only screws up my New York Times cooking app, and so I stopped doing all that stuff. And like it doesn't really help. Like Jeff Bezos doesn't care if like 1, 2, 20,000, 50,000, 100,000, 200,000 people stop subscribing to the Washington Post. It doesn't matter for him. The problem is the timing. If he would have come out when he bought the Washington Post and said, hey, this is what we're going to do, that's a totally different thing. You're trying to say that everyone thinks the media is biased, but by not letting a historically independent group within your media organization say their independent thoughts, then you are showing your bias inherently. So the very thing that he set out to do, which is remove bias in the media, he just made it 10 times worse, because now everyone just thinks the Washington Post is whatever Jeff Bezos allows on the paper or on the screen.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a little bit of a tacit endorsement a week before the election.
Yes.
And tacit endorsement of Trump
Yes.
a week before
is.
the election.
Because they
And
wrote
the
about
thing
it.
that's confusing, and I, you know, we're talking about it within the context of this enemy of the people thing, enemy within thing, because part of what's happening is, like, for example, Bill Gates and Jamie Dimon have both given money to Harris, but they don't want to go very publicly about being supporters of Harris. And the reason for that is because if you go out publicly and say I'm a Harris supporter and Harris loses, Trump will try and make your life miserable if he wins. But if you support Trump and Harris wins, Harris will do nothing. She will support you. She will do nothing to you specifically, right? There's no downside for you if you publicly support Trump and Harris wins. But there's a lot of downside for you if you publicly support Harris and Trump wins. And so I think for companies like the Washington Post, who are also seeing, you know, people, places like CBS and 60 Minutes get targeted, they're maybe seeing like, oh, this is a downside. We don't want to, you know, we don't want. That's not what journalism's supposed to be about. And that's not what those endorsements were supposed to be about. And there's a lot of ethical journalism and all this shit that's supposed to be supporting those, you know, those editorial decisions. So like, that's a whole other story. But I can see why we're seeing spineless decision making here because of this enemy within situation. Am I making sense?
Making total sense. I just was having a panic attack. I mean,
You're welcome.
You tell yourself it's going to be fine, everything's fine, and then you just remember when he was president, and every day, like Seena was saying, it was a new crisis, and then this over here was happening, and then this was getting rolled back, and you're like, and then the idea that we have somebody who is, and you guys know this, I'm just reiterating what we've already said, somebody who's being like, here's some great ideas. Don't you need home health care for your parents? Yes, I do. And then the other person who's like, if you said something bad about me, I'm going to find you and lock you up and take a dump on your chest. You know what I mean? It's like, how is this?
Those are equivalent, Leah. Those are equivalent.
How is this happening? You know?
Listen, I do want to say as we wrap up this segment that also, not to just point too fine a finger on the Washington Post, because the LA Times also decided to cease making endorsements. I do want to say that in the first term of the Trump term, this is how sick I am. I cannot speak. The institutions did hold ultimately. There were guardrails ultimately. So I don't want us to be too hopeless. Now, you're right that if all of the policy points of Project 2025 are to be implemented, we do have some problems, but you know, we just don't know to what extent it's feasible that everything in Project 2025 could be implemented. The other thing that we have in our favor is states' rights. And I've said, like, the thing about being in this democracy is, like, you have to strengthen your local institutions as much as you want to strengthen your federal institutions. So, you know, pouring your energy into your local government, which I've been a fan of, like, from day one, is just as important. So anyways, I hope that helps to reduce our collective panic attacks. Does it, Leah? Does that help at all? Did that calm you down a little bit? Is that a little breeze?
I mean, it's not like you're worried about, I'm not worried about me. I'm worried about people.
I don't know. I'm worried about me.
You know what I mean? Well, I'm saying, like, I'm worried about everybody.
Because I don't want to relive those 4 years were really fucking annoying, right?
Yeah.
Right,
no, it
guys?
was bad.
It was annoying. I didn't like reading that news every day. It fucking sucked. It sucked. And I don't want to do that again. And if I have to do that again, I want to figure out how to do that again in a way that's more productive and more meaningful. I don't know that I don't feel like we all did it correctly the first time. Or did we? I don't even know. But
Well,
that's
it's like
something.
Sorry.
No, yeah.
I would say it's like you want to protect your friends. You want to protect communities that these crazy fucking people on the right, excuse my language, are obsessed with. You know what I mean? You're like, leave people alone.
I mean, because I think he just said, like, in a speech or something recently, that he would reintroduce the Muslim ban, anyways. Where your immediate thought was like, oh, so I got to go back to JFK and Muslims, you know? You're just like, all over. Do we have to do that all over? So let's just focus on the next few days. And I was in Pennsylvania, like I said last week. There's a lot of undecided voters, and they're nice people, and they have room to listen. They're not crazy zealots. They're literally undecided, and you can help shift their mind with a gentle and caring message. So there's still time to help get out the vote.
Yeah,
I
don't
think
fuck it up. That's the message.
it's very gentle and caring. And I really feel like at the end of the day, it's down to compassion. Like, don't you want people to be able to take care of their parents? Don't you want people to be able to take care of their children? Don't you want people's children to get food in school? Don't you want people to have access? And I think most people do.
Yeah, most people do. Literally, most people do. And look, the three of us have traveled the country doing this fucking stupid job. We know most people do. Literally, most people do. Okay, guys, it's gonna be fine. Let's just focus on getting out the vote, and let's move on to topic number 3.
That's me stabbing myself.
God, here we go. So sorry, that was my phone. Did you guys hear that? We have a question of social etiquette. Say you're pregnant and you have scheduled your C-section on the day of your sister's birthday. Is that wrong?
Yes.
Is that wrong? Do you feel that that's wrong? Okay, Seena, what do you think?
So we induced both of our children,
Yeah.
and I tried to request a specific date. I actually tried to because I wanted
Okay,
my second kid to be born on my dad's birthday, and then you like
cute.
you email, and they're like, "Nah, not gonna work." And then so it's like I don't know how much it was the hospital, if there were options. Might be a thing where she was like, "This will be great. Like, I want you both to share a birthday," but it seems like this was just bad producing.
Bad producing.
Love
It's
that
funny
you're
'cause
trying to give a benefit of the doubt. That's nice of you.
Yeah.
was also induced, and I'm feeling sad because, like, the way that it was described to me was like, you don't have a choice in the date. And I'm like, did I not have a choice, or was it presented to me as if I didn't have a choice? Because I would have liked to maybe, because I have a winter solstice baby, and I would have liked to maybe done it a little sooner so it's further away from Christmas, I don't know. Anyways, but this sister, so what happened in this situation is they ended up having the same birthday. The C-section happened on the day of the sister's birthday. And for 5 years, they have been celebrating cutely the same day, nephew and sister, same day birthdays. And now the sister's like, no, now I have plans. I'm doing something else. And the sister's like, well, can you come and stop by at your nephew's birthday? And she's like, no, I have plans or whatever. Do you think the sister has just like some unresolved issues around this?
First of all, sorry, go ahead, please.
Oh, you go ahead.
I was going to say, you skipped the first two. Why were you establishing the pattern? The kid doesn't know anything about the first birthday.
I know.
The first two, you do your own thing. Why'd you do that?
That's where you do your own thing. Absolutely.
Then you messed up. You started the pattern. You go to the first birthday, the second birthday, the third. She messed up. You
barely have a first birthday.
Yeah.
That's the rule.
No, I moved to California, and in the past week, I didn't even know what time I was born at when I moved here. But in LA, it's a very big question. What time were you born?
Yeah.
So I got my natal chart read yesterday for the first time.
Shit, okay.
I am a Scorpio with a Scorpio rising sign in my first house. And so I'm just going to lean into the revengeful person that I am. And so my first thought, which I'm now sticking with, is that this sister got to choose the date. That was my reading of it. She did it on purpose.
Wow.
Okay.
And because if you can't pick it, then there's no, that's just what it was. You know what I mean? But it feels to me like the sister is saying it was picked to be on my birthday. And then it's like, now I have to celebrate somebody else's birthday on my birthday. And then you're going to be mad when I go celebrate my birthday. Like, why can't I go celebrate my birthday? You go celebrate your birthday with your kid.
Now, knowing what I know about birthday charts from what you just explained in the last 30 seconds, can I provide a spin on that, which is, what if she's thinking My sister is so goddamn awesome.
Wow.
She's the coolest fucking person I know. If I can get my baby to be born on the same birth chart as my sister, she'll be like my sister, who's the coolest shit around. Did I
Really
blow your
love it.
minds? Did I
did
blow your minds?
I 100% don't think that's what happened, but
The glass is too full. Far too
also,
full.
were they born in the same location? I don't know where the stars were.
Location matters? Okay, well, I don't know.
But I
All
love
right.
your reading. I think but I feel like that would have come up in the article. She was like, I wanted to celebrate my sister. Instead, I feel like what she's saying is, I wanted to steal my sister's day.
My God.
God. No, I think there's something sweeter than that going on. This is
I don't have siblings, so I don't know. It seems like this is an Italian family, and I say this
and
as an
they're all
Italian.
in the mafia and they're stabbing each other in the
I say this as an Italian, and it was a vengeful power move.
All right, let's turn quickly to this. I know. You're for listeners, she's the one who's perpetuating her own Italian stereotypes, and it is not my fault.
Yes, that's me. Negin would never say that.
Folks, let's turn our attention to this other quick trend. According to data from Evite, divorce party invites have reached an all-time high. Now, here's my question to you guys. Have you been to a divorce party, and have you clocked this trend?
No, but I'm hearing about divorces. I'm just at that, like I'm 40, and so I'm just starting to hear about couples breaking up. So I don't know. We lived, in the cities, so people have gotten married later. I feel like in places where people have gotten married much earlier, this is probably a thing. But I've also heard the thing about like restructuring our marriage instead of even just saying divorce, like that kind of a thing. That's the thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you heard about divorce parties, Leah?
Been to a divorce party.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So I feel like very outside of this trend. What was it like?
Well, contrary to how I behaved in the last question, I really care about people's feelings as an Italian.
You do. As your friend, I can say that you do.
I'm very passionate about people's feelings. And so, when someone tells you they're getting a divorce, you want to support them how they need to be supported, be there for what they need, and not say something that would be taken, that's wrong, that makes them feel a certain way. So I've always sort of been like, so when my friend told me I'm having a divorce party, and I sort of was like, I didn't quite know what to say, but I wanted to say something because you don't want to say nothing, then people feel alone. And she was like, Leah, it's a divorce party. If we're getting divorced, I'm celebrating. So she made it very clear we're celebrating her freedom. And, there was napkins with the big D's on it, which hopefully had a double entendre because she was going out to get some big D. And
yeah.
It's just, they had a long, arduous divorce, but I feel like that it was made very clear to me that this was to be a celebration, that we as her friend group were, wishing her well into her new adventure, and that was the tone of what we were doing.
Apparently, though, according to Evite, these kinds of life-changing events, there's a 5% increase in all types of these celebrations, like paying off your debt, breast reduction surgeries, vasectomies, other major life events. Are you surprised, Seena, that people are just celebrating life milestones more?
I think, when you said vasectomy, I would definitely have a party if I had a vasectomy, which I'm planning on doing at some point.
Nice.
Yeah.
What would that party entail?
A lot of ice baths, tender sits. Yeah.
Tender sits.
So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like we got to celebrate. I also think we're so isolated in general in this new digital age and stuff like that, that whenever there's a way for people to come together and celebrate, I think that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, any excuse to fucking hang out, guys. I like it. I'm into it. Any excuse to hang out. All right.
I want to say I had a breast reduction 20 years ago, and now that I hear there are breast reduction parties, I would like to have one.
Can we do an anniversary party of your breast reduction?
Yeah, like a bye-bye boobies. That would be...
Hey.
I also feel like what's happened is that people are saying, hey, people always celebrate weddings, children, these kind of milestones. Let's celebrate other milestones so people who, have other milestones in their life feel celebrated too. And I think what Seena said, more celebrations, the merrier.
Agree. Let's do it. All right, folks. That is the end of the show. I want to thank the two of you for having this wonderful, stressful conversation in which we have felt so many feelings in our hearts, in the back of our throats, in the front and back parts of our brains, wherever all of those stress cortisols happen. Thank you so much for helping us figure out this political roller coaster. I want the people of Fake the Nation to be able to follow you and all the wonderful things that you do. Leah Bonnema, where do they do that?
So all of my socials are at Leah Bonnema, LeahBonnema. And my audiobook is coming out Friday, November 1st. It's called The Holiday Breakdown. It's a very light, happy Christmas rom-com. So I'd love it if you check that out.
Guys, nobody loves Christmas rom-coms more than Leah Bonnema. She is the grandmaster of Christmas rom-coms. So the fact that she is now putting one out is like a gift to humanity. So please check out this book. And then she's going to be touring with the incomparable Dustin Chafin in November and December. So you should definitely be on the lookout for those dates because it's going to be just a magical show. Seena, Ghaznavi, where do they find you?
At Seena Now, SEENANOW on the socials. You could find Fraudsters wherever you get your podcasts. Our whole season's on the war on drugs this year. And then The Foreign Report is a weekly geopolitics podcast that you can also find anywhere you get your podcast. We are covering everything that's happening in the Middle East, Russia, Ukraine, North Korea sending troops to Ukraine, China, Taiwan, you name it, we're covered.
Guys, Seena is looking into it so that you don't have to. Subscribe to that pod immediately. And you know where to find me and all the things that I do. My last video for the season is coming out with MoveOn.org this week, in which I talk to undecided voters in Pennsylvania, in which I also, you'll see that these undecided voters are like truly delightful and great and undecided in a way that makes you believe that you should keep knocking on doors because there is some movement there. There's some possibility for movement there. So go out and do what you can. Try not to think about it too hard. There's and dig into your community relations because that's where the good stuff is. Otherwise, I want to thank everyone who makes the show a possibility. That's our wonderful producer, Andrew McGuire. Thanks to everyone at HeadGum. Thanks to Gaby Alter for our theme music. You can email us at fakethenationpodcast@gmail.com. You can support our show at patreon.com/Negin Farsad. And otherwise, I don't know. Let's see what happens with next week, but we will definitely be back in your earballs next week.
That was a HeadGum podcast.